In this presentation, we're going to learn how to construct a pivot table, giving some sort of relative frequency and also a histogram for audit time data. So here you can see there's the length of terms of days that some audit company took to audit other people's books. So this is quantitative data and it's continuous, and so it's ratio data, isn't it? So if it took 22 days, it's twice as long as if it took 11. So this is not categorical data, this is quantitative data. So we're going to build a histogram with bars, vertical lines which touch each other. Now, we need to go to Insert and then our friend Pivot Table. Let's use a new worksheet. Now, we only have one column, so only one thing appears, which is the time. Drag that down to row labels. Now you can see here we've got 12, 13, 14. So those are the categories. So we know that some took 12 days, some took 13 days, so that's like a group. But we don't know how many of them took that length of time. So we need to drag audit time down to values. Now notice here on mine it says sum of audit time. We don't want that. What we want to do is to count them. So on the corner, click on that, value field settings, and then change to count, and then go OK. And so we can see we had one observation took 12, two times it took 14, etc., etc. Well, that's interesting, but we want to try to group those together. And this is very powerful use of pivot table. We can collapse them into, shall we say, wider groups, more inclusive groups. So you move the pointer, see that mouse thing? Move it to the left. Then when it turns to like an arrow, then you right click and then go down to group, and a dialog box appears. Now what this is saying is, what do you want to start at, where do you want to finish at, and how many do you want in each class? That's what by means. So let's put 10 in the beginning so that we have a little bit of blank space on the left. I know we don't have any of at 10, but it doesn't matter. And let's put 34 in the end box so that again we have a little space. The largest one is 34, but if we put ending at 34, it gives a bit of space. Now, if we change the by to 5, that means that there will be 5 of these groups in each of the classes. So this is asking how many do you want in each class. By means by class. Go to OK. And you can see now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 10 to 14 if you count 4. That's 5, isn't it? So we've got 5 in each group. And now it's counted up how many there were. So you can see by this that the greatest number, 8, was in the group 15 to 19. So there were twice as many in the group 15 to 19 as there were in 10 to 14. So remember, this is inclusive. It goes from 10 to 14.9999, and this goes from 15 to 19.999. Okay, so we've got some sort of a relative frequency distribution come out of this, and if we wanted to, we could make a percentage frequency distribution just as we did with the bar chart before. Now, let's make a histogram so that we can compare it or look at the distribution. Remember, the distribution of the data is the key thing. That's what we really want to know. Highlight it, just the inside part. Go back to Insert. Now follow carefully, this can be a bit tricky. Go to Column. Now, I know there's all sorts of funny things like 3D and a cone. My advice, just keep it as simple and straightforward as possible. So go to the first one, which is a 2D column. Okay, now we do have something come up, but it's not really what we want. It's not, let's clear some of this junk out of the way. It's not a histogram, it's a bar chart, isn't it? Because you can see the vertical, these classes, we want them all touching each other so we can see the distribution. Now, go back up here, see where I am, right onto this taskbar here. You see there, look, under review, directly under review. You see that little thing? Okay, click that, and it will bring up more options. Now, the one that looks most like an option is number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That looks like a histogram, doesn't it? Oh, okay. So click that, and here we get a histogram. And from this, we can see the distribution. So we ought to make it a bit tidier. So let's make it audit times or something like that. Now, we also ought to make sure that our axis titles are correct. So here we can put days, and on the vertical axis, the x-axis, we also want to tidy this up a bit. So that would be count. So that counts the number of days, doesn't it? Or firms. So it's 6 firms here. So we can say, oh, we've got a continuous variable along the x-axis. It goes from 10 up to 34. So just by looking at this, the distribution of this histogram, we can see that majority of our cases, a lot, were between 15 and 19. Then the skew is to the right. It's skewed to the right. The tail goes down to the right. So a very small number of cases took a long time, between 30 and 34. So this is a histogram with quantitative data. It's just one column of quantitative data that we've broken down into classes and then drawn a histogram from. Thank you.